Welcome this Tuesday morning, March 23rd. This is Mike Blocker, also known as Mr. Top Secret, coming to you live from Cryptic Knowledge Radio and also the UFOBunker.com. I welcome all the guests that are listening. If you're new to the show, I welcome you. And the chat room is open. And, of course, after the show, you will be able to download the show and also listen to it off of Cryptic Knowledge Radio, whatever you want to do. Today I have Michael Tsarion on the show, and he is having some problems with the weather over there where he lives. So if he cuts off air, we'll just go to a quick break, and I will get him back online. But I don't blame him because I live in the South, and it's almost April, and it snowed here a couple of days ago. It hardly snows here at all, and to see it, snowing here late in March, it's crazy. But since we have only a little under an hour left with Michael, I want to read a quick little bio, and he can probably finish the rest of it once I get done. Michael Tsarion was born in Belfast, Ireland, and is a phenomenal researcher into alternative history, philosophy, and many controversial subjects. He has been a guest on Alex Jones' show and a frequent guest on Coast to Coast, as well as Red Ice Creations. He is the author of Atlantis, Alien Visitation and Genetic Manipulation, Iris Origins, Civilization, and Astrotheology. He has lectures that you can find on Google and YouTube. They are The Destruction of Atlantis, The Origins of Evil, 2012, Future of Mankind, Subversive Use of Sacred Symbolism, Origins and Oracles, and a few other videos with Michael Tsarion in them. But his most recent work that we will try to focus on today is The Architects of Control. You can either find them on YouTube or Google, but try to go support his work at michaeltsarion.com, and it will give you a link to where you can go purchase those. But let's go ahead and get him on the line. Are you there, Michael?
Yes, Michael, it's nice to be on. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, thank you for accepting my invitation. So how's the weather over there?
It's a little better now. I'm staying with friends and using their equipment. It's always tricky getting on Skype, but it worked, which is great, just in time.
So if you go off air, we'll just try to go to a quick break, and we'll just try to contact each other again. So.
Yeah, the signal doesn't do too good in the heavy winds here and the snow,
Yeah. So, Michael, what is the Architects of Control?
Well, you're talking about the DVD we did?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's a series. I'm filming part 2 right now, and we've been shooting all over the world. It's basically, I guess it just started, the first one was an homage. It wanted to bring out some of the work I've been researching since 1980s, actually, and also try to bring, a lot of my work is to try and bring to the world the teachers that have changed my life. Yeah. And I can think of, so many, but there was certainly, you and I have talked earlier about Ralph Epperson.
Yeah.
The great Ralph Epperson, of course.
He was my first
guest. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons I, wanted to come on your show, because his work is phenomenal. And again, it's so important that people research Ralph's work, The Unseen Hand and The World Order, these fantastic books. And so that was basically the idea, is to try and share with people the works of Jim Keith and Alex Constantine, and Ezra Pound. And, you can never do as much justice to these people as you want. But that was my attempt to do that, to lay the foundations, the groundwork, to show that in this, I really strongly believe that we're in a sort of an age of revealing or an age of awakening. And that can be very threatening for people. Yeah. And therefore, in order to just keep pointing fingers at some unseen sort of, homunculus behind the sort of curtain, like in a sort of a Wizard of Oz scenario, that also can breed a lot of fear and paranoia. It's very important to realize that there is this there is an architecture of control, and there are some hidden, agendas and so forth. But I also wanted to start addressing it from a slightly different perspective, which is this whole master-slave dichotomy. What is it in the slave that also needs the master? Or is it something that the slave has got used to? Or could it even be that in its inception, in the inception of tyranny, the slave brought it into being in the first place? These are huge questions that very few people in the world have ever asked. And they do, in fact, take us into the realm of psychology, not as we might know it from a traditional, official sort of a textbook way, but they take us into philosophy, they take us into existential psychology in order to look at the dynamics of consciousness. Because so many people in this field have restricted their work to just pointing at the various, orgs or individuals that have been doing evil on mankind, perpetrating great evil for whatever reason. But my slant on it has always been to find out what it is. And, the master-slave thing is basically a relationship. So what could it be that the human race has been doing? Let's look at that, because I also believe that that's where the solutions lie, because if you can put your finger on what it is that we're doing that brings this about, and I mean even in our personal relationships as well as further up, the fractal, if we can put our finger on what that might be, there we might find the key to stopping it, because if we cease to do what we're doing, then that might have some sort of impact, just like in the same way as a holistic doctor will tell you, look, the reason why you're sick is this. If you stop doing it, then you're going to be on the road to recovery and wellness. And so that was the basic idea behind Architects of Control. It was my first opportunity to start I did it in the 2012 talk in LA, and I have mentioned it in Origins of Evil and in other works in passing. But I really wanted to fundamentally get into doing it in a much stronger way to show what it is about consciousness itself that brings tyranny into the world.
Yeah. To me, Michael, it seems like people want to be controlled and told what to do. Explain why it may be in our genetics which make humans more susceptible to be controlled.
Well, that's the key thing, because I had mentioned it in passing in the Atlantis work, and I had mentioned it in other areas that about this trauma. First of all, I mentioned people like Carl Jung, who always said that consciousness is actually quite a recent thing. Thinking itself is quite recent. It's not something that's been around too long, at least in the way we know it right now. And then my researches of the great myths, which is what the Atlantis book is really about, is Irish legends and various myths of the world. They're very, very clear on this, that the consciousness of human beings was in a really, really fragmented and shaken state not too long ago in history, and that there was traumas. And it wasn't just, the trauma was, from 4 or 5 different things. And when I read all these scholars and I was doing all this research for all these years, you'll find people who have a little piece of this, where they say, oh yeah, well, we know that the world was visited by, celestial cataclysm. Hey, it was comets, the Immanuel Velikovsky school, the Commons-Beaumont school. They're always talking about celestial upheaval, and that's a key piece. Without understanding that, you can't make any headway. And then another group would, say, well, there actually may have been an alien visitation here. The ancient legends of the Maya, the Indians, Eastern Indians, and even in the Celtic legends you hear about this, sometimes in a veiled way, sometimes in a very clear way. And then other people will say, oh, well, no, it was just, other changes that took place, the sunspots, the geospheric magnetism of the Earth. Everybody the great Julian Jaynes wrote a book called The Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, The Origins of Consciousness, and he speaks about, that there was, again, some sort of undefinable trauma that took place in the psyche of man. He doesn't really get into detail about what it is, but he certainly says that through researching patients today, by looking at the nature of the brain today, it can be, in fact, dated that there was some sort of, massive trauma. And therefore, other teachers will pick up on that. Lenin has written on this, that there was something odd going on. Various scholars have said this. But then what happened with me was I was able to bring all these theories under the umbrella of the philosophical question that I had, which is all through my work, Michael, which is about the origins of evil. How on earth did man become what he is? It's very serious to look into the past, and it's very serious to find out what went on. And so in the Atlantis book, we did talk about this, about consciousness being very, very much traumatized. And then answer your question, I have now realized this is how it connects, because what I'm talking about right now is about history and anthropology and things like that. And people would say, well, wait a minute. How does that then tie into, your work on conspiracy? And you're talking just a few minutes ago about secret societies and hidden brotherhoods and tyranny. Yeah. Well, the point is that this is my journey of life, is brought me to this amazing discovery that this very trauma, this very fragmentation of the mind, this weakness, if you will, is exactly what was co-opted by the architects of control, probably as early as Sumerian times.